Welcome everyone. Design of results in monitoring and evaluation system is what we will be discussing in today's video thereby. So what is the power of measuring result? It has been a common misnomer that everybody thinks about it, but allow me to clarify. Remember, anything and everything that you can measure can always be managed. So if you do not measure result, you will not be able to differentiate success from failure. And if you cannot see success, probably you will not be able to reward it. It is as logical as it is. Remember, if you cannot reward success, probably what are you doing? You are encouraging failure, you're rewarding failures. Since you cannot see success, you will probably will never learn from it. Remember, from failures everybody gets dejected. Their hearts get broken, they get demotivated. It is only through success that people start learning the new tricks, the new traits, reaffirm their behaviors around it. So if you cannot recognize failure, you will not be able to correct it either. So if you cannot demonstrate result, you will never, or you can win public support. If you cannot demonstrate result, you cannot win public support. But if you can do it, you will win it. So it's measuring result that has an immaculate powers over everyone that goes around it, and that is what we are looking forward to. So essentially 10 steps to design, building and sustaining a result based monitoring and evaluation pattern. And how do we go across with it? Conducting a readiness assessment as we go around talking about it. Agreeing on the outcomes is the second number of steps that we goes around. Yes, what we are looking out here, we say conducting a readiness take as been discussed. Then we are talking about the agreeing on an outcomes, and this has to be outcomes which needs to be agreed upon by every stakeholders. What needs to be done? Selecting the key indicators is what we are looking to measure the outcome. Baseline data, herein what you're forming around an opinion. Planning to improving, then selecting result targets, thereby monitoring the result there. And how do we come across with it? The monitoring of evaluation, the role of evaluation, reporting your finding as the case might be. How do we go around it? Using your findings thereby, probably yes, what have you found out about it, and how do you see the ramification of your findings in your implementation, in your interventions. And that is what leads to a sustaining monitoring and evaluation system within your organization, and that is what we are looking to trying to find out. Introduction to the result based monitoring evaluation system. The result based monitoring and evaluation system measures how well one is performing. It tells us, it is also a management tool to tell us in which degree, to what degree that we are doing things right, on what things that we need to improve upon it. It helps us to emphasize how the outcomes has to be achieved over a long. So monitoring and evaluation are two separate things, but they are interlinked strategies to collect data. Remember, to report findings, to understand, to analyze, and probably go for an intervention step that is required. Remember, in this particular video, we are discussing monitoring as a tool, evaluation as a tool, and how they are related to each other. How do they extend support on a good public management system? The 10 steps to build a result-based monitoring and evaluation system in a government performances. Let us try to understand. So, reasons for the do result-based monitoring and evaluation is required. Why? Because it gives us vital information about public sector performance. Why? Because it gives an understanding over a period of time on the status of the project. Why? Because it lends credibility on the public confidence by reporting the results. It helps us in formulating and justifying the budget request. It identifies potentially promising programs or probably the practice thereby, as the case might be, is what we are looking forward to. Remember, focuses attention on achieving outcomes important to the organization and its stakeholders, provides timely, frequent information to the staff, helps establish key goals, key objectives, permits managers to identify and take actions to correct weaknesses, thereby supports a development agenda that is shifting towards greater accountability for aid lending and funding processes thereby, and that is what we should be looking into it. Let us address the result based monitoring, what we call monitoring as per se. It is always a continuous process. It's a non-stop process of collecting data, analyzing information, comparing well how a project, program, or policy is performing against the benchmark result, against the expected results as the case might be. Major activities where result monitoring is needed is setting of goals and objective, reporting to parliament and other stakeholders, managing projects, programs, policies, reporting to the donors, allocating resources thereby. And every time that we do it is what is required out there. A new emphasis on both implementation and result based monitoring process, as the case might be. It's the traditional monitoring method focuses on implementation. Probably this invokes all about inputs, how much money we are talking about, how much manpower we are allocating, what are the resources that been consumed. Then there's an amalgamation of the money, material, and manpower is called about it. The amalgamation of work that works around it is an activity that goes undergoes about it. So you have your input, and then there's an activities. If inputs and activities have been merged around it, we are intending to work about and outputs thereby, and that is what we are looking for. What are the outputs, the product, the services? This approach focuses on monitoring how well a project, program, and policies has been implemented, often used to assess compliance with work plans and the budget plans thereby. And that is what we are looking forward to. And result based monitoring, on the other hand, is unlike the traditional based monitoring. It incorporates everything about traditional monitoring method, but how effective it becomes is what we are looking at. It how effective it is going to be, how efficient it is, all about it. How, what is the efficacy of the project thereby? That is the requirement per se. Result based monitoring demonstrate whether a project, program, policy is achieving its stated goals. We are talking about result based monitoring, we are talking about implementation. Implementation is just input, activities, and output, but results are all about goals. Results are all about outcome, the impact that is goes around it. Remember, inputs are your financial, human, and material. I have been trying to tell it to you. Activities are those person undertaking those transformation process that goes around it. Output is all about the product and the services that the firm caters, the project caters, the company caters, the government caters around it. Outcomes are intermediate outcomes to the clients. The goals are the long term widespread impact that improves the society per se. So let me give you an example as far as an adult literacy is concerned. This, please understand from the perspective of adult literacy. The inputs are facilities, the trainers and the materials, and the trainees, the facilities thereby. What are the activities, are the programs, the training courses that we goes around it? What are the outputs? The number of person graduating or completing the literacy courses per se, becoming literate enough, able to study on their own, understand, comprehend certain amount of written words, documents thereby. So what are the outcome? It means an increased literacy skills. It means more opportunities for the human beings, the population, the public, for higher employments opportunities. The overall goal is higher income, improve life standard of living, increase access to higher skilled jobs, as the case might be. Definition: result based evaluation and assessment of a plan, ongoing and completed intervention to determine its relevance, efficiency, effectiveness, impact, and sustainability. The intent is to incorporate lessons learned in decision making processes thereby. And how do we go across with it? And that is what is required for the day. That is what is needs to be understood. So result based evaluation is what we are looking as far as planned, ongoing, and completed interventions with relevance to its efficiency, effectiveness, impact, probably sustainability thereby. Evaluation addresses is the why question. The why question is, why do we undertake a project, undertake a company, undertake an initiative? That is what we are looking at. What causes the change? Then comes how. Now, what are the processes that needs to be incorporated around it? What are the activities that needs to be involved around it? What are the sequence of tasks that needs to be fulfilled? So we have the why question, we have the how question. Then becomes the compliance. Usually, it's the federal government compliance issue. Usually, it is the regulatory factors that comes around it for making a compliance issue. Did the promise activities actually take place? Where they've as and when they were planned around it? Process implementation processes, was the implementation process followed as anticipated, and with what consequences are we talking around it? Designing a good evaluation, getting the question right is very crucial. Answering the question is very critical. Supporting the public sector decision making with credible, useful information is must, and there are no compromises thereby about it. Remember, John W. Tuckey said, better to have approximate answer to the right question rather than having the exact answer to the wrong question. Absolutely well said, and needs to be identified. And that is the reason what I've said. Say you should always have an approximate answer to the right question rather than having the exact answer to a wrong question, because it doesn't help you at all. Approximate answers will help you if the question is pertinent, gives you a sense of direction, it shows you the way. Allow me to put it in another different fashion. Let's say, what does Bertrand Russell say? Better to be approximately correct than being precisely wrong. And that is what we are trying to go across with it. Approximately correct than precisely wrong. Allow me to quote certain examples of evaluation. Let's say privatizations of water system, on how do we go around it. The policy evaluation, the program evaluation, and the project evaluation. What happens with the project evaluation? The policy evaluation. Let's say privatization is comparing model approaches to privatize public water supplies. Now that what goes around it. In terms of resettlement, company strategy is used to resettlement of rural villages to a new areas if it's a new location that we're talking around it. Program evaluation, assessing of fiscal management of government system, assessing the degree to which resettled villagers, farmers maintain the previous livelihood. And that is what we are talking about as far as program evaluation is concerned. This is what we are trying to address. Then comes the project evaluation, assessing the improvement in the water fee collection rates in two provinces thereby, and how do we go across with it. Assessing the farming practices, resettle farmers in one promises as the case might be. Some other example that goes around it. Now, how do we compare it all together and what needs to be done? Should we collect a fee? Let's say in policy evaluation, again, continuing with the same example, let's say comparing the model approaches to a private water public supplies, resettlement comparing strategies used to resettle rural villages into new location altogether. Program evaluation is where the fiscal management will be going around, where the money is coming in and how the money is going to utilize. Will it only utilize to harvest more water? Let's say rainwater, perhaps filtering of water makes the water much more potable for perhaps. Assessing the on resettlement, it would be assessing the degree to which resettled village farmers maintain to have the similar kind of lifestyle, the previous livelihood that they want to go around it. Project evaluation, let's say in the project phases, we are assessing the improvement of water fee collection rate in two provinces. It's a pilot study that we are trying to go around it in the project phase. So what are we looking at from project phases? Now this is something which needs to be understood. This goes like this. So we start from project, then comes program, and then eventually it gets established as a policy evaluation pattern. As the case might be, so assessment helps out. The pilot survey helps out when you start collecting money for the water that you are going to supply around it. Similarly, for resettlement, assessing the farming practices of resettled farmers in the one promise. Now, remember, this is almost a pilot study in the project evaluation phases. Then comes the program evaluation, and eventually, install fashion would be a policy evaluation that goes around it. Let's say complementing role of role-based monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring nothing but clarifies project objectives. Project objectives, program objectives, understandably in a clear vertical letter in white and black it states around it. Evaluation is analyzes what the intended result were and were not achieved. Links needs to be find out. In monitoring, links activities and the resources to objectives. In evaluation, assesses specific causal contribution to the activities. What are the cause and effect relationship? In monitoring, translate objectives into performance indicators, probably even set target thereby. In evaluation is examining implementation process. In monitoring, routinely collects data on these indicators, compare actual results with the target. Evaluation explores unintended results. Absolutely there. Monitoring report progresses to managers and alerts them to problems, provides lessons, highlights significant accomplishment or program potential, and offers recommendation for improvement as the case might be. And this is what we are looking forward to. Developing a result plan. Once a set of outcome is identified, it is time to develop a plan to assess how the organization will begin to achieve these outcomes. In the traditional approaches to develop a plan, the first thing a manager usually do is to identify the activities, assign responsibilities. But essentially, what is the shortcoming? Shortcoming is completion of all the activity doesn't mean that you are reaching the overall objective, the overall goals thereby. And that is what we are looking forward to. That is what we should be looking at it. Developing a result plan is what we try to do about it. I have been trying to telling you about it. Implementation, the three activities of input, activities, output. Whereas result is all about outcomes and impact that goes around it. Let us translate the outcomes into action. Note, activities are crucial. Activities are essential. But are they the action that you take to manage and implement your program? Use your resources, deliver the services of the government. But the summation of all these activities may not mean, actually may, probably may not mean that you have achieved your outcome. Question is, how will you know whether you are successful or not? Question is, how will you achieve that you are efficient or not? Question is whether the end objective and the means to the objective were correct or not, is what we are trying to tell about it. So yes, a pictographical representation is the outcome that we're talking about. It everybody's trying to achieve the outcome. Now we might have target 1, we might have target 2, we might have target 3, and each of the targets would have their own means to an end. It might be a multi-year annual work plan, any small activity that goes on, keeps on happening around there. So what are those? Target 1, target 2. Remember, all the targets completion doesn't mean that you have achieved the outcomes. Yes, you might have come it. Why the question comes out, yes, if I have met, there were only 3 targets and I've all met those 3 targets, but why do you say, sir, the outcome has not been met? Because the outcome or the targets were meant to be met within a stipulated period of time. Let's say for a 3 months time or 6 months time or a 1 year time, you're supposed to meet all those three targets. But what do you meet? You eventually meet them at the end of 6 months, 9 months, or 15 months. You basically extend those targets that yes, all the targets were met, but outcome were not achieved. The program were not completed in the due courses of time. The costs were escalated probably, and things when goes wrong. Similarly, achieving the result through partnership, as this is something which we can go around it. We have explained till this point, right? Everything knows is clear out till out here. We were talking about the outcomes, the target 1, the target 2, and the target 3. Overall outcomes will lead to my overall objective to the goal. Yes, definitely yes. And every target can have their own different strategies of building, borrowing, begging, partnering, stealing, thieving. So you may have partner 1, 2, and 3, partner 1, 2, and 3 for every of the targets, every of the activity, every of the task that goes around, which can be fragmented altogether. So we can achieve the result through partnership. Another depiction of going around it. Remember, every outcome can be met, every target can be met. That doesn't mean the sufficient goal has been achieved. That needs to be understood and it has to be fine-tuned to the requirement of the day. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the very end. Thank you very much.